can never excel if she is never challenged? How can her muscles grow if there is never any resistance? The reality is they can't. If no pressure is applied, forcing her muscles to grow and her body to develop, then she will become weaker, and eventually atrophy sets in. Now a culture of laziness and apathy begins to cultivate within her, and she becomes a detriment to herself as well as her team. She refuses to recognize the strain she's causing on the team. Therefore, other members are forced to pick up the slack that she should carry. We are this team. We are a community. It's up to us whether we take challenges that are facing us today. War, AIDS, famine, poverty, genocide, oppression, and slavery. These are some of the global challenges that we are facing today. We can either stand and stay stagnant and refuse to accept them as problems of our own, or we can receive this weight of the world, these problems, and allow them to shape us into a healthier, stronger community. We must study the world we live in. If there's nothing else that I've learned here at Guilford College, it's that we must be engaged citizens. We cannot afford to take anything at face value. We must dig beyond what CNN tells us. We must search beyond the pages of the New York Times, because that's only a few perspectives of many. We must challenge ourselves to move beyond our comfort zones. If we don't, we'd be doing a disservice not only to ourselves, but to our communities as well. If we don't, then our growth as people is stunted. If that continual process of challenge and growth is not taking place on an individual level, then how can we make an impact on our larger global community? If we're not living to make an impact, then we have lost our purpose. We are lost. The only way we can sustain the growth of true community, where ideologies are challenged, systems are dynamic, and change is welcomed, is to cultivate a culture of thriving diversity. The college as a whole has taken some small preliminary steps to cultivating such an environment right here by naming diversity as a core value and listing anti-racism as a part of its strategic long-range plan. But how can we nurture something if we don't take the time to understand what it needs to survive? Simply adding it to our core values or to the strategic long-range plan does not guarantee that the problem of racism and discrimination will disappear, or that it will be properly addressed. To understand what it takes to cultivate such a diverse environment, we must look at the action of diversifying. In business, it means to distribute investments among different companies and securities in order to limit losses in the event of a fall. So having a diverse portfolio helps us strengthen the company by distributing investments among its business units. At Guilford, I like to think of the student as its portfolio. We are the ones who represent the college wherever we go. We are the ones who generate the profit for this institution, for this beautiful brick-laden campus to run. Like a business, the college must also invest in diversity. The diversity of its students, its portfolio. This investment is necessary for our community to grow, to be stronger. When speaking of investment, let me be clear, I am not speaking of mere financial investment, but we must also invest time, effort, and creativity. When considering to make the move to diversity, we must be fully engaged in this process, from the president and CEO, down to the board, down to the hourly hourly staff worker. If you back this tremendous shift only monetarily, without visible effort and support of your upper management and peers, you're destined for failure. It's a communal effort. Everyone must take part. But before we can begin bringing diversity into the fold, we must reevaluate our history. We must analyze in chronological order the investments that were profitable in the past and the investments which brought major losses. Sometimes major trends in business come along and revolutionize entire industries like e-commerce. When such a phenomenon happens, businesses that rest on its laurels of the past will get consumed by the dust of their peers. Guilford College was eating that dust when it refused to support its students who chose to fight for civil rights in the 60s. When integration was sweeping the South by unpopular demand, Guilford College was forced into integration, not by admitting African American students right down the street, but by first admitting Kenyan students. Once the school did integrate with local blacks, they were welcomed with a contentious spirit. The subtle and blatant hostility they were met with forced them to take action. They even staged a sit-in just over there at New Garden Hall, demanding institutional support for a black student union called BASIB, Brothers and Sisters in Blackness. They also were demanding more African American representation in their curriculum. Many of us can benefit from the fruits of their labor by graduating as African American Studies majors. These changes hurt. They challenged the status quo, but they were necessary for growth. A similar pain is felt when the business is forced to diversify due to industry changes. The company must take on more debt to gain an even greater return on its investments. As humans, we are naturally resistant to change. It takes a special motivation for a person, let alone a group of people, to enact change individually or as an institution. Diversity at the core is change, for it literally means the condition or result of being changed. So for us to list diversity as a core value, we are selling ourselves short if we view it as a mere quantifiable objective of the college. We must embrace the challenge that comes with diversity, as well as the challenge of looking within our hearts to assess our own values. I know as a student of color who has helped define diversity here, has felt support in many ways by many people. But in the same note, I felt partially supported by other faculty and the administration at times. Although we've been here during some dynamic and transformative years of this institution, we still have a very long way to go. We must ask ourselves, do our values line up with our actions? Are these values larger than our own personal concerns? So I implore graduates that we must not settle for diversity without disruption. We must challenge ourselves to live outside of our comfort zones, because it is in these places in which we grow. Remember the lesson from our athlete. If we don't force change, then we cannot make an impact. And if we cannot make an impact, we have lost our purpose. With this said, I will leave you with a quote from Matthew 10:16. I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Please continue to make a change. And please continue to reevaluate your values